Hi, I am Tony Russo, and you are listening to Funeral Service Insider, the podcast. Conversations worth having about death care and end-of-life care. My guest today, the person to whom I speak, is Alexis McCurdy. She runs Green Farewells. I did a feature on her last year, and the rest of her team, they were doing direct aquamation in Nevada, and then in the fall of 2025, which is when we did this recording, they had debuted their own AI systems that take care of several of their funeral home tasks, including answering the phone and things like that. And we'll get into it. One of the really cool things that she talks about, though, and I'd like to point it out to you beforehand, is making sure that you know what your tech does, because you might want it to do stuff it already does and you just don't know about it. So staying in touch with your tech folks and with your vendors is critical. And even though it can get tedious to do the updates, not only should you do the updates, but you should read the update notes. But again, we get into all that after these words from our friends at Passages International. Today's families are asking for greener, more meaningful funeral options, but many funeral homes are still struggling to meet that demand. With 68% of consumers expressing interest in sustainable choices, the gap between what families want and what many providers offer is widening. For more than 25 years, Passages International has helped funeral homes stay ahead of evolving expectations with biodegradable, fair trade, and innovative memorial products that resonate with today's families. Discover how sustainability can strengthen your service offerings at passagesinternational.com. So it has been a while since we spoke, although I've seen you around on the internet, and I saw that you made a post that said that you had used AI to start an answering program for yourself. But before we get into that, let's talk about how busy you've gotten. So have you been open a year, 2 years, a year and a half?
We've been open serving families for about 2.5 years now. Technically open for 3, but serving families about 2.5 years now.
Time flies when you're having fun. And so how have you grown? What are the kind of things that you guys have been doing to stay afloat, I guess, and to grow?
Yeah. I always tell my team, Green for Wells is a startup. we're a startup just like any other business. Obviously, water cremation is what we're most known for. We established relationships with a pet provider that also does water cremation for pets, and cool enough, they work down the street from us. So that's been a cool referral service because it's the same type of families. But most of our business really picked up in the whole body donation space. So we spend quite a bit of time serving those families. It's a completely different workflow though with whole body donation.
How did you decide to get into it? How did you know that there was such a thing? And did you get on a list? How did you decide if it was worth it? And then how did you get into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know what? I actually had a family who asked me about whole body donation and kind of what that would look like with water cremation. And I thought it was just such an interesting ask. I'm like, I don't know, right? Like I probably need to be able to answer that question. So I actually had reached out to a nonprofit who is doing whole body donation and really started to kind of like ask questions about what that could look like, and come to find out they were coming to Vegas. So it's been a journey with understanding kind of what their needs are, and then what did we have that could serve them as a business, because they were also new to market. So we kind of partnered together on what's going to make you successful in Las Vegas? Like, what do you need here? What do you need from a partner funeral home? And it really was about, obviously serving families, but really agility, right? Like agility was a big thing, like how quickly we could respond to shifts or questions or transport or changing requirements, or now we need this. And so we were able to actually build a business case around how quickly we can respond to things and hash out reports and help them grow their positioning here in our market and how do you talk to hospice. So it really is at a relationship level, I think, of how we jumped into it, and it's been really awesome. Honestly, it's been a good add to our business.
So whole body donation is cadavers. Is that right?
Mhm.
Or is it something? Is there something in addition to that?
It is kind of a cadaver space, so it's different than organ donors where it is a full cadaver, if you will,
Hmm.
where they are, electing essentially whole body versus, organ
Eyes or
donorship that
whatever.
can happen at the hospital. I almost call it like a post process almost. But a lot of people don't know the difference between organ donation and whole body donation. And we've really been a champion of double donors, and educating our families that you can save lives and get your cremation costs covered. And that's been an aha for
Uh-huh.
people, because it's just two different lanes, but same type of family that can serve and wants to serve in that way. So education has been really the key to growth there.
And I've spoken with, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 body donation people, so I understand just enough to say really something stupid. So I apologize
Yeah,
in
yeah.
advance. But because the idea is because you have to track, you send them off, but then you have to take them back, right? That's where the twist is, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a chain of custody is substantial. And then also partnering very, very closely with your whole body donation partner because you are still the funeral home of record, right? And
Right.
so it doesn't matter where they went or how they served or where that cadaver has gone, et cetera, et cetera. The paper trail is substantial on both parties, and so the disposition and the paperwork for that is substantial on both parties. So really being able to rise to the occasion on really your paper trail and how diligent you are with chain of custody really makes or breaks, right? Like that experience and also the liability too in that for sure.
What's kind of interesting about your families or the people who are kind of drawn to aquamation is the reusableness of the
Mm-hmm.
human body. Like, I'm a whole body donor
Mm-hmm.
advocate. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody's gonna want it when I'm done with it, but I think it's good for people who have bodies worth having to
Yeah.
donate their body. But so this is it's weird to say it's a selling point because that feels gross, but it is kind of a selling point. Is there a different way to put it?
It kind of is. And I think one thing that we've found in our, you know, sophomore year is really understanding who hears our message, right? Like we spent a lot of time trying to understand who our market is because there's a bunch of rock star funeral directors and funeral establishments here in town and crematories.
Mhm.
And so who hears us best? And a lot of it's the same market a lot of times, with who really resonates with that message of giving and saving the planet and your body is an energy source and how do you learn from it and how do you give back like that has tracked. But it's allowed us to really expand between folks who have a higher disposable income to give for X amount of thousands of dollars for a water cremation, or my cremation is covered because I was a donor. And so it just
Mm.
allows us to really expand that message, regardless of how much somebody has, which has been really freeing because then we can tell everybody, right? Like we have a solution for everybody.
That is fantastic, and of course, it also expands because I know it's very, very difficult for people, for medical facilities
Yeah.
to find the bodies to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I can't recall his name, I'm sorry, but I just interviewed another funeral director in Las Vegas, and he was saying that's where they get their embalming practice
Mm-hmm.
is they go on to the cadaver. So it really is also good for the
Yep.
industry in
For
general
sure.
to make sure that gets
For
done.
sure.
And so with all this expansion, you've gotten much busier and you've kind of increased your calls and things like that. And you are using tech to solve a lot of which makes
Yeah.
sense. And for people who didn't hear the last show you were on, your tech forward. Actually, matter of fact, would you just give your specs if you don't mind?
I always tell this story. I kind of fell into cremation work. My background is actually in digital product management and project management. So I spent the better part of 10 to 15 years in building digital products, and then also understanding consumer behavior and what drives them to purchase or interact with digital tools. So I'm always fascinated in trying to understand what the problem space is and is there technology to solve my consumer's problem, but also is there technology to solve my problem too? And nine times out of
Mhm.
10, the answer is yes. I just need to keep looking hard enough, or I need to create it myself. But usually it's a yes.
That's an interesting question. Well, an interesting point that I wanted to try to get you to elaborate on, because there has to be stuff that you buy because you don't feel like making it, as opposed to stuff that you buy because you can't make it.
Correct.
And how do you make that distinction between what you'd rather just pay someone else to do and what you'd rather do yourself?
That's such a good question. We typically take things for a test run, and build versus buy is always, something we're evaluating because building it takes time. So really, I'm trying to understand, do these features exist somewhere and I just don't know about it? And so I'll typically go and ask for demos, or I'll do some research and say, hey, can I take it for a test spin? Do you have a demo account I can use? And I'll really, really will put the pedal to the metal. Like, will this software actually solve my problem? Or here's the use case that I'm really trying to solve. I've even encouraged my team to ask those questions of our vendors and actually put things on their backlogs like, hey, I have a feature request. I have a need. Can you
Yeah.
solve this for me? But really taking it for a test drive and seeing if it can alleviate some of that friction. If it can, awesome. I'm buying it. Is it worth it? Right? Like, worth the dollar amount. If
Right.
not, well, then I'm going to look at how long and how expensive is it for me to build it and kind of weigh out those costs. So sometimes I do buy and sometimes I do build.
And so one of the what got my attention, and one of the main things that I wanted to talk about, was that you decided to build an AI agent to answer your
Yeah.
phone, which is, it's so funny because I had just spoken with you, and then I saw a social media post where people were complaining about shoppers calls and how do you answer the phone right every time, and how do you keep your energy up, and things like that. And I was wondering if you found AI could solve that problem without costing you families or getting you hung up on or anything.
I feel like I have, and I feel like it's a little bit of trial and error, but what has worked for us is to look at risk and start there, right? So obviously the riskiest space is, I have a family and they have a question and it's an urgent need, or they want to know about our process, et cetera, because they're right in the middle of a crisis moment. Well, that's risky and they need to talk to someone, right? But if I
Right.
have somebody, a nurse calling with a first call, or the hospital's calling now, or some sort of less risky experience, well, that may not actually need me. That may not actually need the team, especially if it's routine, right? So you start to identify what's routine and what's repeatable. Is there something in your process when you look at your workflow that is repeatable and low risk? Well, usually, if there is, that is a candidate for technology or AI or some sort of support there. So, what I did was look at our workflow and really ask my team, okay, if we were to start protecting your time to make sure you are available for crisis points, your family's in need, think people that have questions, what could we take away? Oh, well, let's start with first calls. Or, oh, let's start looking at after hours, or let's start looking at a triage of sorts because we're trying to find out information first. So we identified, a couple points that were low risk and repeatable that we wanted to try out technology for and see if we would still get that family, or if we had a negative sentiment or it needed to be escalated. So really some trial and error, but really knowing our processes and what's going to hold, and did we still receive a favorable response from that family? That data was everything.
And I guess it worked out since you're still using it. What were some of the lessons that you learned during the kind of construction process or the?
Oh, I have so many. Lessons that I learned. So one being what's repeatable, which I talked about before. So and it's not the same tool for every point, right? There's a bunch of different technology and a bunch of different options. So for example, one of the things that we implemented was an IVR at the beginning when you call. So IVR being self-service. So when you call, green farewells, you're getting the recording, but a press 1, press 2, press 3, etc. And our data showed that our families are not dropping off at that point, right? Because you can kind of track that information. Oh, are people dropping out? Are they stalling? We were not.
And we're used to that
Exactly.
as
We're used
customers.
to that. We're used to that. So I didn't necessarily need, right, to tie up my phone with somebody asking those qualifying questions at the beginning. Families will self-serve and people are okay with that. They're not a drop-off point. Well, that doesn't need AI because AI is relatively expensive.
I want to interrupt you to ask you what IVR stands for and make sure I have the letters right.
Interactive voice response. So we were able to do that and stand that up, and our calls still would come all the way through. Well, that frees up my team. And another point that we put through from a lessons learned standpoint is how can I reduce the mental cognitive load of my team so they can focus on the most important thing? The most important thing is the context of what the family is trying to tell you, right? Like, what information are they giving you? Well, if you're focused on writing notes, or did you spell their name right, or did you get the phone number, you're not really listening, right? Like, you're not really
Right.
listening to understand. You're listening to write things down. So we stood up transcription. So now when someone calls and they press a prompt and get to my team doesn't have to worry about did they get the name right, the number right. It's all transcribed. They get it at the end. It's pushed to the rest of the team. It recorded their phone number too that they've called from. And so now they're really just listening to understand and solve the problem versus let me get your name, let me get your phone number. What did they say? What's the follow up? So that was a really big lesson too of how do I not just save time, but how do I make their jobs easier? And what's the most important thing that my team cares about and the families cares about? Well, it's that they were being listened to and understood. How do I create that
Hey folks,
experience with
Tony Russo
technology?
here, and I just wanted to take a second to talk to you about some of the events we have coming up for 2026. We have a bunch of them already scheduled, and you can see all of the events we have so far at events.kates-boylston.com. We will be adding more as they present themselves, but we do have a couple coming up in the next few weeks I wanted to draw your attention to. The first is cremation innovations, and that's really interesting, especially given the context of this episode, because it will feature Samantha Siebert. She is with BioResponse, the company that makes the Aquamator that we are talking about in this episode. And that virtual event will be on January 28th, and then on February 25th, we have Cemetery Grounds and Structures, which is an event tailored toward cemeterians pretty much exclusively. It's going to be pretty technical. I've actually already spoken with some of the people who will be presenting, and it's going to be an event you don't want to miss. As always, all of our events are recorded and then replayed, so if you can't make it to the event, you still should register, because the day after the event, we will send you a link with a copy to the event and all of the notes that came with it. So it's worth signing up just to make sure you don't miss out on anything. And you can do all of that at events.kates-boylston.com. All right, let's get back to it. Now, does the IVR ask them to spell their names as well, or that? Because that's if my editor is listening, I know that they're going to point out that my transcription doesn't always pay very close attention to how, and it's common names. It's like Sloan, but is it Loan or Lone? That's kind of thing.
Oh, also a good question. So what it does, it will listen and it will transcribe. And again, people have to consent to being recorded, so it's in there.
Right.
We're listening for quality assurance, etc.
Right.
So what it will listen and it will transcribe what people are saying, but my team is also prompted with cues, right? So they've learned to confirm, hey, you said your name was Sloan. Is it Sloan? Yes, Sloan. Okay, perfect. Well, the transcription's got that, and it's automatically the
Right.
AI in there is going to spell it Sloan because it's listening to that voice response. So there's a little bit of human manipulation and education on how do they need to interact with the technology that's going in the background to get them what they need. So now they know, oh, let me confirm with you. What did you say your name was? Was it Mary? Yes, it's Mary. Okay, great. It's going to make
Yeah.
sure Mary, right, is put together. Or let me make sure I heard your name right, or your email. Can I play it back to you? Is it tommy.com, right? So
Right.
they're also educated on what's the right prompting you need to give the technology, almost like a teammate, right? Like
Hmm.
technology is your teammate to make sure you get the right results at the end.
And so how long has it been live, and what has been the bit of rollout so far?
We have been, let me see, we've kind of gone through this big technology overhaul, I'm going to say the last year. So over the last year, it's been bit by bit. So the first piece that we started with was all internal collaboration. What are our collaboration tools that we're going to use to make sure our communication is solid? So we use Google Workspace, and there's a lot of different tools out there. You don't have to use Google Workspace. It's not a plug for Google
Mhm.
Workspace, but I,
Well, Google could use a shout out.
Google
They're
could
having
use a shout out.
a
I am a fan of using their chat. So our team has an ongoing chat throughout the day and specific channels for, someone's called. This is just our general chat. We call it, the daily 100 and what are the 100 things we've got going on today. So we have a collaboration space. Our documents can go in so it's easily searchable, right? If we need it right off the top of our tongue because we're on a call with someone. So we started internal, and then we moved to the phones, right? In terms of how do we start to reduce time and cognitive load? So we did the IVR, or the interactive voice response. So that's self-service you get.
Mhm.
Then we rolled out the several AI agents to start taking after hours calls and paging us. So we trained our bots to kind of do the same triage. If someone's calling with a pricing call, you're going to get somebody licensed. If somebody's calling because they're checking on the status of a death certificate at 2 a.m., it's going to set an appointment for you. So we did that after hours where it's not as heavily trafficked, right? Calls and
Ah,
cluster. And then we started moving it up to our day. Okay, now that we have our after hours taken care of, what can we start to do in the middle of the day and start to identify? So that's when we rolled out our AI triage line for nurses and hospitals. And when we're getting first calls and we're dispatching transportation, it can dispatch transport for us because that's a repeatable
wow.
process, right? Like, here's the information, we're going to push it, it's going to automatically dispatch transport. So we've really started to look at keeping the human things human, compassion, creativity, empathy, understanding, active listening for the human space, and anything that's repeatable, lower risk that we're seeing. You're trying to you're able to multitask in this thing. It might be a candidate for for tech. But active listening, you're not multitasking, right? Like that's for your human to human creativity space. So we continue down this journey. We have a now I've got a plan to redo our entire case management system and build that from the ground up, because that's been kind of our next friction point of I need information faster and easier, and I need to recall information. So that's kind of our next space.
I was just about to ask whether you had a now, did you build the management system yourself, or did you buy one and now you're building one?
We bought one first, and now we are actively building our own. I have one in beta right now that my team is using on the side to give me feedback where it's made their lives easier or where I have forgotten something and they hate it. So they're very good about giving me feedback. But so right now we have kind of our regular case management system that we've bought from a vendor and has been working fine. And then my team also has what I call beta. And I will give them a couple cases to work through beta as well and see if they like it better, what they would change, if it's helpful, if there's a bug, before we have fully committed to moving all of our cases over.
And now you are a highly technical person with plenty of background and skills, but small things like using Google Workspace
Mhm.
instead of a management system seems like intuitive. It seems
Yeah.
like that I didn't even occur to me that people could do that, but why
Yeah.
not, right?
Yes. Yes. There are so many things. I even tell some of my colleagues in the field, you're paying for things and you don't realize you're paying for them and you're not utilizing them, right? A good example, if you are a Google user, I'm surprised how many people are not using Google Groups. Like, you're a Google user. Do you know Google Groups exist? Because it can be used as a ticketing system, right? Like, you have the ability to assign, reassign, have everybody emailed at once by using just one thing. Like, we have one operations.greenfarewells, and it goes to everybody, and I can assign things. We call it the queue. And my team can hop in the queue and check things off because we get emails from everywhere all the time. So now we're able to say, today is your day for the queue, and you're just working your way through, but everybody sees it. Everybody gets it at once, or you can adjust it. And so a lot of times what I'm finding is that you actually don't have to be technical. You just need to be informed, right? Or
Mm,
really understand, like, what problem am I trying to solve? And you can even ask AI, and how do I solve it? Here's
right.
my tools that I have. What am I not using that could maybe solve this problem? And you don't have to be a technical person. Likely you're paying for things. I'm finding people are paying for features that they don't use, because they don't know how, or they don't know that that feature could maybe solve a problem that they have.
Can you give me an example of a feature that you think is probably underused but could make people's lives better?
I think a feature that's underused is transcription, which we've talked about a ton.
Right.
I
Yeah.
am almost an advocate that you need this in your funeral home. If you can, add it to, the consent to being recorded, et cetera, which I know can feel icky. However,
Mm.
when we need to look at, one, what did someone say, right? Like, what did they actually say? Or I can give you a prime example. If a family has given the wrong address, right? They've given the
Mhm.
wrong address, and now you're looking at, well, the death certificate got sent there. Well, no, that's not what I said, right? Like, you can go back to the transcript
Right.
and say, but actually, this is what was said. Do you need it to go somewhere else? Or even the clarity it brings to me as the business owner of the pulse of my team and what's happening day to day, and reducing the amount of meetings because I can see it. A lot of times if you're using transcripts, there's a sentiment analysis. So I can get a general pulse of, how are my families feeling today? What kind of calls did we have today? Right? Generally positive because it's
Right.
giving a sentiment, or, oh my gosh, what happened? Right? Like, what was going on today? Was there an issue? Or what's happening in our community? Right? I think that's
Mhm.
super underutilized. I'd also say that typically in the case management systems, what a lot of people don't realize, the people that fuel those, they're just tech nerds like myself, right?
Right.
And a lot of times they're releasing new features and people aren't taking advantage of them. I know Passari just released a new feature, I think, where you can take pictures of your vitals document if you hand wrote it, and can automatically upload and fill out your case management system. Like, that's
Wow.
huge. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
If you're a paper place, that's huge. And most of the time when I tell people, they, really? Like, I didn't know that was a thing. So following, your vendors, holding them accountable, but they also have release notes where you can see what they've released or what's new and take advantage of that. A lot of times my colleagues don't even know that exists, and you're paying for these things that may solve your problem
Right.
now that you're not even aware of, that you could be capitalizing on.
And it's hard, and I don't wanna blame Microsoft specifically, but after a while, you're like, yes, I know there are updates I have to look at, but
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I got another email. Yeah.
but so with the management software, you could be making your life easier and saving money. Like it's horrible to say, but I was like, I'm not afraid of getting viruses, but I would like to be more efficient.
hmm
So,
And, there's usually a customer success person of some sort, and that may not be their actual role or it's by a different title. But there is somebody, especially in your vendors, there's somebody that's accountable for how you feel about the tools that you have. And they're going to want to hear if it's meeting your needs or not, or if you have a feature request, being super adamant about it. Hey, this thing does not do this thing I want. Can you fix it? I just recently saw now I'm name dropping because I follow some of these, but Parting Pro, they just recently released where you can send emails directly out of Parting Pro. Now that is huge, right? Because now your emails and what you're sending to people is automatically being tracked in your case management. So anybody can go in and look and see what was the last thing that was said to a family without kind of running around. Huge, huge update, right? So I
mm,
think just being plugged into what are you actually paying for and then following what they're releasing so you know what you're paying for is critical because it likely can solve a problem for you that they're solving for somebody else who's been advocating for it for a really long time.
right, right. I guess it's appropriate to ask, although I didn't tell you I'd be asking this. Have you thought of marketing any of your stuff? Is it all going to be proprietary, or have you thought about getting into the tech business?
We're going
Back, I guess, into
Going
the tech
back, yeah.
business.
We're going down that path. We've found that it's been really, really cool almost to work backwards, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, here's a connection point that I could be telling all of my peers, or you want to pay us to do it, we can do it for you because you don't have time either, just like just like we
right.
didn't, right? And so we're working on a tech arm at Green Farewells so we can do that exact same thing of here's the tools that we've built that you can use. One of the really cool things about AI is the ability to create AI agents. And so I call them AI employees because that's easier for people to kind of conceptualize when they don't work in the
Right.
space of you create an AI employee to do a task for you. In the tech world, it's called an agent. And we've built quite a lot of them. And what's cool is it's repeatable, right? Like my AI employee that can answer my phones very likely could answer your phones, right? And put
Yes.
my case management system could probably do yours. It could probably do the same thing. Or we created an AI employee in my case management system and we named her Martha. Martha could probably do the same thing for multiple funeral homes and crematories or pet cremation, right? She has the same tools. It's just like any other person who was applying for a job. So we're working on that. We're working to figure out how do we make those things available for other folks like us and or consult and say, hey, here's the stuff that you already have like, right? Like this would do this for you too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just as you've already done on the show, pointed out two facets that people might not know they have already.
Exactly, exactly. And we do that often in the tech world, right? Like a tech consultation. Like that's a very, very common thing to say, hey, here's my tech stack, as we call it. Here's my tech stack. And I want you to help me understand how to better utilize that. Super common in every other industry. In fact, it happens all the time. And that's how then you see these organizations say, okay, well, I don't need these other things anymore. Or my tech stack has changed and now I have duplication because this exists over here. So I don't need this other tool and I'm going to get rid of it. Very, very common and also a way where my peers in the industry who are looking at their bottom line or how am I saving, et cetera, also a way to potentially save costs too.
And that is really all I have for you, unless you have something else for me. Is there something I should have asked and didn't, or something you thought you'd get the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it?
No, I don't think so. Again, this is my like favorite topic to talk about. So I welcome any comments, questions, feedback, or just people that want to pick my brain, I'll pick yours right back because I love this stuff for sure.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Today's families are asking for greener, more meaningful funeral options, but many funeral homes are still struggling to meet that demand. With 68% of consumers expressing interest in sustainable choices, the gap between what families want and what many providers offer is widening. For more than 25 years, Passages International has helped funeral homes stay ahead of evolving expectations with biodegradable, fair trade, and innovative memorial products that resonate with today's families. Discover how sustainability can strengthen your service offerings at passagesinternational.com. Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. Please subscribe wherever you're listening now. If you have any suggestions for the show, if you have any guest suggestions, anything that you think I need to know, you can tell me via email. If you go to kates-boylston.com, you will find my email address there, and of course in the show notes here. Finally, make sure that you're checking in on all of our other shows. We have the American Cemetery and Cremation show, which you can find on our YouTube channel. And we have the In Case You Missed It podcast, which will be out on Friday. And we'll have bonus episodes throughout the month of January and February. So keep your eyes peeled from them, and we will check in with you next time.